Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Wednesday, August 17th. We are here live, and it's time for another episode of Destination Health. We've got a big day lined up for you today. We'll do Destination Health. We'll be here for the next hour or until we run out of your questions. It's totally up to you. Then I will be joined by Lauren for After Hours with Kevin and Lauren. I am probably going to skip live today. If Lauren wants to do one today, she can. We'll see. So line up the calls. Phone lines are open right now. I don't have a big theme today. I do have a lot of odds and ends I'll probably talk about and catch up on a few things while I'm waiting for some calls to come in. But today is really all about you and what's on your mind. So lines are open. Pick up the phone and give me a call. 855-950-3835. Anything to do with health today counts. So pick up the phone and join me. All right. So I am kind of all over the board this morning. How do I want to start this? Let's get the boring negative stuff out of the way. I read an article about the FMCSA today, and this is health related. I didn't know this. I don't know if anybody else knew this or not. Nobody's ever mentioned it to me, and we talk about these kind of issues, not a lot, but fairly often. Yeah, and what I'm talking about are DOT physicals, rules, regulations. What can you get a limited card for? Could you be disqualified? There seems to be a lot of confusion. How much power does the doctor have? What can they do? What are they supposed to do? Well, now I understand why, when this topic comes up, there's so much confusion. So, here's why. I didn't realize this. The FMCSA on Tuesday published a notice of proposed regulatory guidance that includes an updated medical examiner's health book. Well, that's good. I'm glad they're updating it, but listen to this. With proposed changes, 7 years after the agency withdrew the existing handbook due to obsolete information. It was obsolete 7 years ago. They just said, okay, this is obsolete. We're going to take it away. The book doesn't exist anymore. The medical examiner's handbook, we're getting rid of it because it's obsolete. That was 7 years ago. This is why the government needs to do a lot less of everything. The government sucks at doing anything. Imagine a business that had this, primary function and realizes their information is obsolete to do this primary function. Safety for the FMCSA is a pretty big thing. Driver health and safety, they make it a big thing. So if it's so important, how did you let the material become obsolete in the first place? How long did that take for the material to become obsolete? Then how long did it take for you to realize it was obsolete? And then when you did and you withdraw the book, it's 7 years before you come up with anything new. Businesses could never survive like that. You can't go 7 months in business doing something like that. But it's the government. So since 2015, I did not know this, medical examiners have been making truck drivers' physical qualification determinations on a case-by-case basis. The medical examiners have been on their own. They could just tell you, no, I'm not giving you a card. Or they might be giving 2-year cards to people who are completely unhealthy. There's zero guidelines from the FMCSA on this for the most part. The doctors have been on their own for 7 years. No wonder why we're confused and we get all these different answers. Every time this topic comes up, somebody will say, oh, no, my doctor said you have to do this. No, my doctor said this. Well, wait a minute. Why are we listening to what the doctors say? There's supposed to be rules about this from the FMCSA, but I guess we've been going since 2015 without any real rules. Now, here's the bigger reason I brought this up. Here's the headlines for this. FMCSA releases draft of DOT Doctor's Handbook. This is a draft, so now there's the comment period, so we all go get to comment, which nobody will do. Here's what bothers me. With an advisory link to stricter sleep apnea screening protocols. So after 7 years of not having any rules at all, the one we're going to focus on is the one I consider nothing but a big money grab. And they're going to make these rules stricter. So look out. If you are at risk for sleep apnea or have sleep apnea, looks like they're coming after you. I will tell you the number one risk factor for sleep apnea is obesity. It's also the number one thing that doctors look for. If you walk in and you're normal body weight and lean, the doctors just don't even think about sleep apnea. But when you're overweight and you have a large neck, it's visual. They see it. Oh, look, here's a sleep apnea candidate, and it's a money grab. The testing is expensive. The devices are expensive. There's a follow-up to it. You do not want to get into this sleep apnea thing. And it sounds like it's going to get a lot worse. So I just found that this morning. The comment period, I don't even know if it's open yet. I'm going to follow up more on this. Maybe we will start a campaign to go and make comments on this. Let's see. FMCSA is accepting public comments on the notice and draft handbook for 45 days through September 30th. Yes, we're right on top of this. They just started the comment period a couple days ago, it looks like, and we still have time. So I'm going to do a little digging. I don't know if it's worth it to make the comments, but we should get involved in the process if that's the case. I think the fact that they're focusing on stricter sleep apnea is just a bad idea. I do think it's a big money grab. All right. I asked for calls and they're starting to come in, and I have a lot of stuff here. Let's see. What do I want to... Oh, I want to talk about this real quick, and then I'm going to get to the calls. I may come back to some of this material. I found a podcast the other day, and I haven't had time to get through all of it yet. It's actually a 5-hour episode. That's a long podcast. We do 3 hours pretty regular, but we do question and answer. This was an interview, 5-hour interview. It's with an ex-Navy SEAL officer. And I want to finish the podcast and really kind of dig into it deeper, but somebody already did it, and they did a hell of a job on it. They came up with 15 lessons from this podcast, and when I read these 15 lessons, I really want to kind of dig more into the podcast and get the detail, but this article, they did an excellent job on this. So I'm going to go through these kind of quickly. I may focus on a couple. Again, these are 15 lessons, and what they are really... This is a lot of biohacking. And, you think about Navy SEALs, and what it takes, first off, to qualify for that is incredible. I won't get into that, but it really is incredible, the physical requirements and what you have to be able to endure to even think about becoming a Navy SEAL. And then in the job itself, it's life or death. These things, these biohacking tricks are pretty cool stuff. So I'm going to go through a couple of them real quick. One of them may have actually solved a problem I've been struggling with for about a month, and I don't know where it came from. And I was really confused, and nothing was making sense. And I don't know why this would have changed for me, but I'm going to try this. I woke up this morning and forgot. Today should have been the first day I was going to try it, and I forgot. But I'm going to go through all of these, and I'll tell you about that one. In fact, it's number 2. So the first one's called Optic Flow. It's kind of interesting. It says to reset the eyes and nervous system, go for a walk, a jog, or a bike ride. The forward movement causes optic flow, where visual images go by you on all sides while you're in motion. As your eyes move to engage with this optic flow, the parts of your brain involved in fear and threat detection become quiet. So they're not really saying it here, but what we're talking about is exactly what I'm working on with the stress protocol. Finding ways to create our own physiological shift into that rest and digest mode. And how many times have I said, go out and take a walk in nature? We know it works, but I didn't understand why. And here's the explanation of why. And he goes on to say this has a calming effect, reducing levels of stress and anxiety, which that's the whole point. Now, this is interesting. The key here is that the optic flow is self-generated. So using a treadmill or a stationary bike or stair steppers or these machines, it doesn't work. How many times have I said gym should just go away? If we want to be healthy, the gym is not the place to get healthy. It's just not. I used to own one. It's not the place to get healthy. And here's a good example. So we're told, if you exercise, it'll reduce your stress level. Well, that's partially true, but there's more to it than that. I would say that, and I have said it, I see these people who go to the gym and spend all these time on cardio, and they're worse off. They're more stressed. They start gaining weight. I've watched it happen. Well, that long, repetitive type of movement is stressful. And now we understand that there's also a big, big piece missing from when we go out and walk or ride a bike or jog in nature. There's this whole visual piece we missed. We didn't know that was there, existed, and now we do. Now it makes sense. All right, the next one, and this is the one that may have solved a problem I've been dealing with. I've talked about my energy levels, since going grain-free the first time, then keto, and experimenting with carnivore and other AIP paleo I've been through a couple times. My energy levels the entire time have been outstanding. I mean, I wake up, I have energy all throughout the day. I don't really have that roller coaster slump thing. I can work, some days 16 hours and still feel like I have energy to spare. And then recently that started to change, and I don't know why. I was really kind of blaming it all on the stress and sleep issue. And that didn't make total sense because I've been fighting that issue for a long time. And this is new. And what's happening that I noticed is when I do eat my first meal of the day, and sometimes it's early, sometimes it's 10:30. And some days it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the reason for that is, what have I been saying for 8 years? If you're hungry, eat. If you're not, don't. So I'm hungry at different times. If I'm hungry at 10:30, I eat. If I'm not hungry till 2 or 3 in the afternoon, then that's when I eat. But it doesn't seem to matter when I eat that first meal. I get a huge slump in energy. And that's not good. That is typically a metabolic blood sugar issue. You eat, your blood sugar spikes, then it crashes, and you want to take a nap. And I didn't think that could be it. I'm not eating meals that would spike my blood sugar. And for the last 6 months, I haven't been measuring much of anything other than my Garmin watch. I haven't been checking my blood pressure, haven't been checking blood sugar, and I've said I go on and off from doing it. After you do it for a while, it doesn't change much. It gets kind of boring. So I stopped doing it, and I thought, boy, has something gone wrong? I better go back and check. Well, sure enough, metabolically, I'm fine. Blood pressure's better than ever. I'm sure that's because I've been, so regular with the Cardio Miracle. Blood sugar's perfect, really. No real issues with blood sugar. And yet this slump in the afternoon, some days is horrible. Like I couldn't work through it if I tried. I have to lay down, close my eyes. Then I get this weird, restless feeling. I can't really take a nap. And I've been losing like an hour and a half and 2 hours a day of good work time, fighting this weird energy issue. And I haven't really talked about it much because I wanted to at least try to solve it first. Well, again, I don't know why this may have changed, but this next little biohack from the ex-Navy SEAL officer it's exactly what I'm going through right now. So it says here, if you regularly experience afternoon dips, feeling foggy and unfocused, it might have something to do with your morning coffee. Timing your first coffee is important, and the advice is to avoid caffeine for the first 60 to 90 minutes after waking up. I'm going to try this. I wanted to try it today, and then I forgot. I need to set an alarm tomorrow and do it. Here's why. They actually explain it, and it makes total sense. And I understand all of this because I've done so much deep reading into sleep, and this is all about our sleep hormones and chemicals. Adenosine is a molecule that builds up in your brain and body the longer you're awake, creating that drive for sleep towards the evening. So this is kind of the sleep switch. You have this molecule that starts to build up in your brain as soon as you wake up in the morning. And as it builds up, when it gets to a certain level, then you're going to be tired and you're going to want to sleep. And that's a good thing to know. If we're having trouble falling asleep, we need to look at this as one of the issues. But while you're sleeping, adenosine is pushed down. It should be. And if it's not being pushed down, that may be why you're not getting restful sleep. If you've had a nice, good night of sleep, that the amount of that molecule in your brain should be really low, but not completely gone. Caffeine is what we call an adenosine antagonist. That means when you ingest caffeine, it binds to that adenosine receptor. What that does is it blocks the sleepiness signal so you feel alert and awake. That's why caffeine gives you energy, because it blocks this sleep molecule from building up in your brain. But what's happening there is adenosine, that receptor, think of the receptor as the parking place for the adenosine molecule to do its job. And if caffeine pulls in and parks in that spot, which it does, then adenosine can't do its job. That's why we can stay awake with caffeine longer. And other stimulants work this same way. Once that caffeine wears off, then the adenosine can bind to that receptor. But here's the kind of interesting feeling or interesting concept behind this. If the adenosine receptor is open because you haven't had any caffeine first thing in the morning, the adenosine molecule, as soon as you wake up, starts to attach. And that's really what we want. That's the normal cycle. But if you ingest caffeine right away, now that molecule has to wait. And when it waits, it gets impatient and angry. So now when it hits that receptor, it's more powerful. That's what's happening in the afternoon. You're getting that hit of this adenosine molecule telling you, hey, it's time to go to sleep. I don't know why this changed for me, but it makes total sense. This is exactly how it's kind of happening. I've got some other really good stuff from this article, and I'm going to work more. I think I'm going to be incorporating a lot of these. There's 15 really good lessons in here. I think I'm going to be incorporating several of these into the protocol. There is another one that has to do with sleep. Let me find that one here because I thought this was interesting too. There's actually a lot of this that really has to do with sleep. I do need to dig into this more. Okay, this is the one I was looking for, though. This is actually number 14. An hour before natural bedtime. Now, here's a problem. Natural bedtime isn't a big thing for us now. It should be. The problem is natural bedtimes are set by the sun. We have so much artificial light in our life now. We've destroyed that natural circadian rhythm, but it still impacts us. Normally, an hour before natural bedtime, you'll suddenly feel very alert. And if I've noticed this, I'm sure everybody has at times. It's entirely normal, seems to happen to everyone, might not happen every single night for a lot of reasons, but it does happen. And here's why. And I love when we get these kind of explanations, it always goes back to how we evolved as hunter-gatherers. Because if we look at the timeline of humans, we were hunter-gatherers for at least hundreds of thousands of years. I don't want to argue the biblical or religious idea about time. I will use the scientific explanation that we've been on this planet a very, very long time. Hundreds of thousands, if not a million years for humans. That's how we evolved all that time. Now, the modern world would be measured in milliseconds against that. When electricity was invented and that created artificial light, that's like brand new in human evolution. And that's what's really screwed with our sleep cycles. So this explanation of why do we get alert 1 hour before we go to bed? We are evolutionarily wired to use this hour of sudden energy to make sure everything around us is ready and secure before we go to sleep. As hunter-gatherers living out in the wild, when we're sleeping, we are totally vulnerable to predators. We were not at the top of the food chain. Not until we learned how to make tools and other things. We were not at the top of the food chain. There were lots of animals that could eat us in the wild, and they did. So this is why there was another book, I've talked about this in the past, why we have these different sleep cycles throughout our life. Like we know teenagers don't want to go to sleep till very, very late at night, early in the morning, and then they want to sleep in till afternoon. Babies sleep at all kinds of crazy different times. Old people sleep less. They tend to want to go to bed earlier, get up earlier. Middle age has a different cycle. The evolutionary explanation for that I thought was fascinating. That was so when we lived in tribes and we're so vulnerable when we sleep, people were awake and asleep at different times, almost like guard duty. We were scheduled naturally so that somebody was more likely to be awake. This one is the same thing. We used that hour. It was so important to make sure that we were safe and secure before we went to sleep. I just think that kind of stuff's fascinating. Let's get to some calls. I may come back to a bunch of this, and I had a ton of other stuff on my list. Kind of odds and ends all over the board, but let's get to the calls. We're going to start off in Texas today. Scott, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. Great open. Really interesting.
Thank you.
Love to hear more about it.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for all the things you've done for me over the years. A couple of years ago, I couldn't pass a physical, and they gave me a 1 year anyway. I started working on keto, and I didn't really try carnivore then. That came along later, and I quickly resolved my blood pressure issues and lost some weight.
Good.
So thank you for that. But I got an issue. I don't go home that much, but I try to get home at least once a month for a couple of days. And recently and every time I do, I fall off the wagon a little.
Right.
This most recent time, I took a week vacation with grandkids and my wife to Yellowstone, and we didn't plan any food ahead, and so we just ate everything that was out
right.
there.
Yep.
And they always wanted desserts, so I ate right along with them.
Yeah. Yep.
So a while back, I had symptoms similar to what I'm about to describe to you, but it was only one time before. So I got back from the trip, and I just started having these horrible cramps all over my stomach and knots. You could feel them in my stomach, and even pressure and what felt like missed beats in my heart. And that one lasted. Well, I'm feeling a little better now. That was 3 days ago, and it's been horrible. But I guess I'm sort of getting back to normal. Is this something that I should look into further, other than just not doing those
No.
behaviors next time I'm home.
Well, yeah, don't do those behaviors if you can help it. You know what? Here's the thing. I kind of laugh about these for a reason. This is a good thing when this happens. Doesn't it kind of make you resolve to not do this again?
It does.
I know.
It really does.
Yeah. And here's the other thing it does.
I described it to my wife as contractions for birds.
Okay, and look, here's the good news. I have an easy answer for you. You started me off nice and easy today. This is a slam dunk. I don't even have to think much about this. But I like this idea of falling off the wagon. It does a couple things. It remotivates us to not do it again, but it also proves this stuff really works. When you stop doing this stuff, you know you stopped. You get immediate negative feedback.
Yeah.
So I love it. I think it just helps.
Vicious.
Yeah, it is. But here's the good news here. So you gave me 2 symptoms, and I'm glad you gave me the second one because it made the first one easy. Muscle cramping. And as soon as I hear muscle cramping, whether it's your calves, your feet, your thighs, your stomach, whatever it might be, it's typically going to be a mineral imbalance. Mineral imbalance is critically important to our heart because what is our heart? What is it?
Muscle.
It's a muscle. So, of course, anything that's affecting our muscles is going to affect our heart because it's a muscle. So if our muscles are cramping, then our heart can cramp. Now, it's not going to do it like a typical muscle, but you're going to get these disturbances in your heart rhythm. And
that's a perfect description of how I felt. Really.
Yep, that's it. I don't know exactly what it was. It just didn't feel right. Something was a little off. There was a disturbance. That's exactly what's going on here. Minerals are responsible for making muscles contract and also making muscles relax. How does the heart muscle work? It pumps over and over and over. So every second of every day, the heart needs to contract and relax, contract and relax. Pretty critical that we have good mineral balance for our heart. So double down on the light balance. If you're not taking any, you absolutely need to be taking it. If you are taking it, double or triple down. And if that doesn't really resolve this, and I know you said it's already starting to resolve, probably because you're back to eating more nutrient-dense food. You don't have as much sugar in there. Sugar can interfere with our mineral balance. So you can kind of just get back to your better diet, and it may resolve on its own. But I think that because, you got kind of this severe reaction, we may want to focus on really making sure we get your mineral balance back up. Cardio Miracle would be a good one for this. If you're not taking Cardio Miracle every day, I would.
Okay. Yep, I'll get into the store and get both of those.
But the good news here is this isn't anything to worry about. We don't need to dig any deeper. It would probably mostly resolve on its own, just getting back to your clean diet. But let's make sure. Let's get in there with some supplementation right now and kind of get this locked down.
Fantastic. Thank you. Can I add one thing, Kevin?
Absolutely.
Hey, man, I've read so many books that you read. The library is long.
Good.
But just wanted to say a couple weeks ago I finished that The End of the World is just the beginning series.
Crazy book, isn't it?
Fascinating. Yeah, it seems so realistic in this world.
Yeah, if somebody would have called me and explained what the book was about, I probably would have argued like crazy. And I don't even know if I would have wanted to go read the book. I would have thought, that's so outrageous. But the opposite happened. When I read the book, not knowing what it was about at all, it felt so real. Like, boy, this guy nailed it. Yeah. But then when I set the book aside and I think about the real world, and could that really happen? I have a hard time getting my head around it.
And you've been around the world. You've seen different places. I was in the military. I agree that this is God's world here in America. It's got everything it needs to survive and thrive in these changes as it goes forward.
The one thing that, if I want to get something positive out of the book, it's easy. we were very, very fortunate. It's not like it was, through anything we did. We were just very, very fortunate to be born here.
Exactly.
We should be more grateful for that.
Absolutely. I slept better after I read that book.
Good. Good.
All right, Kevin. Thank you so much, buddy.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. Let's go north of the border. Murray in BC. Hey, we're not that far away from you. We're just up in Bellingham.
Oh, well, I'm a couple 100 miles north into the interior now, but it's all good. Sun is shining.
Yeah.
You wake up on the north side of the grass. That's a good day.
That's right. That's right. What's on your mind today?
Two things. Monday, you were talking about yogurt, and you were thinking about switching from inulin to potato starch. And I'm curious to know if anybody else has had the same difficulty. I tried the potato starch with the coagulins and the Gasserai, and I do it the same as you. I mix my be it inulin or potato starch or sugar or whatever you're using for your stuff, and I mix that with cream with a stick blender, and then I pour in my starter, and then I dump it into the whole mix, and away we go. I found with the potato starch that I got a layer of concrete at the bottom of the container. I have a 1 gallon container that I put in a pot with a sous vide stick, and I found that the potato starch settled out to the bottom, and I didn't get really good, thick yogurt. I tried it several times, and when I went back to the inulin, it thickened up nicely, and it worked better. So that's just my experience with potato starch.
No, I'm glad you called. I haven't made a batch yet. I need to. I'm out. But we're on the road, and I didn't plan all that well, and I ran out of yogurt right when we were leaving, and so it's been almost a week now. I've been without yogurt, and I'm missing it. But I got a ton of feedback about that. I thought, well, let me try the potato starch, and somebody said, yeah, blend's much easier. But I got a ton of feedback. People said you will not like it. Most people that have reported to me said they do not like the yogurt using potato starch. So, once I figured out the whole put the inulin in the liquid, blend that first with a stick blender so you're not worried about, damaging the bacteria. And I just work on that till the lumps are gone. That inulin is just so funky when it starts to mix. But once you get that step done, then you can put in the starter, and it's working fine. So after all the feedback I got, I'm not even going to try the potato starch. I'm just going to stick with the inulin.
Yeah. Yeah, I find the inulin, it stays suspended in the mixture, and I get nice, thick, really good, nice, thick Rootereye, especially the Rootereye. I get like thick sour cream when it comes off. It's wonderful.
It's awesome, isn't it? I agree, and I have not had a bad batch yet, other than like that very, very first starter batch way back when. Once I got past that first batch or two, and I keep using my own starter, every batch of mine has been thick and creamy. It's like the best yogurt I've ever eaten.
Oh, unequivocally. I love that recipe you gave me with the maple syrup and cinnamon. I haven't tried the espresso shot yet, but I love the maple syrup and cinnamon. And that's so...
Yeah, now...
And I throw in...
go ahead.
I throw in a heaping tablespoon of gelatin.
Okay.
Raw gelatin.
Interesting.
Because gelatin is amazing for your joints.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's an interesting addition.
All the building blocks. Yeah, and it soaks up any leftover moisture you have. It can be a little grainy, but if you add in some like frozen strawberries or raspberries, it tends to get rid of the graininess.
Yeah. I just had a thought while you were saying that. What was it? I know what it was. Make sure when you're buying gelatin, it's grass-fed. I didn't realize that was the thing.
I don't know if I could.
We get gelatin.
I didn't know
I know. I didn't know it was the thing either. But gelatin comes from cows, from animals.
Of course.
So if we're getting something from an animal, we want to make sure that animal was raised properly. There are really clean brands of gelatin out there that are grass-fed. Bulletproof makes one, is the one that comes to mind. But there are others.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. So it is a thing.
I'll have to do some search.
Yeah, it's out there, so we should use it. Because we're using the gelatin because of its nutritional value. We want to make sure it's nutritious as possible.
Well, and to that point, that and the Lana Life bone broth. We buy the bone broth from your store. Norma fixed her knee problems a couple of years ago with just gelatin. And last couple of years I've had not problems, but knee pain and ankle pain. And here in the last, say, month or 6 weeks, I've been using either bone broth or gelatin. Depends on, because our eating system has changed a little bit, but one or the other. And my knee pain, my ankle pain is like, I was on the highway, and on the highway, you're sedentary. My knees would, after 3-4 hours behind the wheel, my knees were just aching.
Right.
And that is not gone away, but certainly mitigated, like seriously mitigated.
Excellent. So when we,
anyway, that was just a,
when we talk about this, we talk about gelatin and collagen. And when we consume bone broth, and gelatin and collagen, by the way, are also really good for our digestive system. That's why bone broth is part of our digestive protocols. It's very, very healing to our gut. Now, bone broth has all of that stuff in it. The collagen, the gelatin, everything's in there in its natural form and in the natural balance. That's why we really like bone broth as the go-to for this. And the reason we love Lona Life is because it's so damn easy. It's super high quality. It's just so convenient. It's easy to carry in the truck when you travel. You drop it in a cup. If you have hot water, you're all set. I love that. I don't know if Bulletproof still makes this product or not, but Bulletproof used to make a product called Colla-Gelatin. And it was a little bit of both. It was some collagen, some gelatin in a good ratio. But honestly, I'd say, look, just stick to the whole food version here, which is the bone broth. Yeah.
Well, and I do bone broth. I would say I probably do a cup of bone broth 5 days a week.
That's good.
It can go 4 to 6.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't often do bone broth on the weekends. Our weekends get messy and you're busy and you just sort of forget about it, right? But when I'm driving, I look forward to my bone broth. That's my half hour of euphoria.
You know what's crazy?
I love that stuff.
You know what's crazy? I just thought about something. People call me all the time and ask about, this company that makes this smoothie or that drink and my natural reaction over the years to those has been just stay away. It's garbage. We want to eat our nutrition, that kind of thing. And there were lots of reasons why all of those products just weren't good. And we talk about you should really chew your food. But I look at what we've kind of developed, and many of our really important kind of almost supplements, but food, it does come down to a couple drinks we're doing now. 3 that I can think of. I love my coffee in the morning because it's a routine. It makes sure that I get those because I'm so bad at taking supplements. Well, the Light Balance and the vitamin D and sometimes collagen goes into my coffee. I don't ever forget it. I know I'm not going to. But then we look at bone broth as a great part of this, Cardio Miracle. The good news that I'm finding is now that I'm doing all these things as a habit, I'm not fighting dehydration all the time now. I used to be horrible at this. I used to always catch myself being dehydrated because I'd get busy. I'd forget to, I should be drinking all day long. Well, now the fact that I always make sure I get my coffee. I always make sure I get my Cardio Miracle. And most days, like you, I want to get some bone broth in. And because of that, I'm getting tons of liquid every day, which is good.
Yeah. I drink pretty much, I have 1 cup of coffee in the morning, 1 cup of black coffee. And I'm usually about an hour after I wake up by the time I start in. So I'm close to that point, that hack there that you mentioned this morning. That's an interesting thing. I might adjust that a little bit.
Yeah.
I drink that, and I have a cup of bone broth, and then I drink a couple liters of water through the day, and that's
excellent.
About it.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Anyway, Norma was at the doctor. She's been having some gut pain underneath her, just sort of the bottom of her right sternum, just below her right breast, at the bottom of her rib cage. She had her gallbladder out. She's using bile salts and whatnot, but she went to the doctor the other day and they did an ultrasound and found that she has some kidney stones.
Oh boy. Okay.
One of them as big as 8 mils.
Ouch.
And they say, "Don't worry, you'll pass that." Yeah.
Don't
that's going to feel good.
I was just going to say, don't worry, you'll pass it. You'll know it too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the doctor said.
Yeah.
She said, "Well, how will I know if I pass?"
Oh, you'll know.
Don't worry, you'll know.
Yeah, you'll know.
So I seem to remember you mentioning that there is a protocol to dissolve them.
There is. We don't put the protocol out.
Okay.
We don't publish it.
Okay.
We want people to go through that with a practitioner. And it's not a big deal. It's just there are certain protocols. It's like detoxing. We will never put out a detox protocol. If you're going to detox, there's too many things to understand to put out a one-size-fits-all kind of protocol. You know, when we put out a protocol, it's because it works at least 80% of the time. You know, if we test 10 people with this protocol, at least 8. You know, you've heard me for years and years say my threshold for fuel mileage improvements is 70%. Because over the years I've worked out, if it's 70% effective, we're going to get good results from this. With our health protocols, more like 80%. If we can hit, 80% of the people who try this get some positive result, then we know we're on the right track. So if we know that and it's pretty safe and there's not a lot of variables, we'll just publish it. Here's what you do. Just do it on your own. You don't need us. And we publish all of our protocols for free. But there are some where there are too many things that could go wrong. They can cause people a lot of discomfort when they're trying to do this. Or you can just get it completely wrong if you're not sure what signs you're supposed to watch for. So detox is one of those, and gallstones and kidney stones. So it would require a one-on-one.
Okay, so do the NutriQ or just make an appointment with?
When was
what's her name?
When was the last time she did a NutriQ?
Well, it's over a year ago now.
Oh yeah, I'd like to have at least
back when you were working with her. Yeah, back when you were working with her on her liver problems.
Okay.
So what's that? That's a year, 18 months?
Yeah. Too far. We do need a new NutriQ. 90 days is about the limit for me on a NutriQ. A lot can change in 90 days. So we and especially if she had one at 90 days, I would still say do another one. We're getting ready to do a little more intensive protocol, so we want the most up-to-date information we can get.
Okay. Well, she's listening, so she just heard your advice, and then I guess we go to Lauren for an interview after that.
Yep. Excellent.
Okay. Sounds good. Good talking to you, Kevin. I'll let you get to your rest of your callers.
Excellent. Good talking to you. Let's head off to South Carolina. Terrence, welcome to the program.
What's up, Kevin?
What's on your mind today?
So, about that thing about the doctors. I remember, when I was living in Wisconsin, we went to I won't say the name of the place, one of those clinics where you always went for your physical. And this one doctor was like, they would measure your neck. Oh, another inch, and you're going to need the sleep apnea test, And he goes, so I said to him, I said, well, how does my size of my neck? That's what my book says. He says, for his medical exams book. So what I think's happening now is all the guys that are still having this issue, whoever these medical examiners are, they're just going back to the old book. They're not even aware now that stuff's obsolete.
Yeah, exactly.
So guys are getting hit. I mean, it happened to me with the blood pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years ago, last year I had a 1-year card. This year I got 2. But they're not even, once they read it once, I think, they're really, some of them I'm just not knocking chiropractors, but some of them are just chiropractors. Some of them are just practitioners. They're not doctors. And they just got this guideline. They think, here you go. This is the physical. This is what has to be done. And they don't educate themselves any further. So I don't know how, to me, it sounds like this is going to turn into no other way to put it, a big shitstorm.
Yeah.
We're going to lose
Yeah,
a lot of guys if this doesn't get corrected.
Yeah.
Because,
And
like I said, and they read it once and that's it. You know.
no, you're exactly right. And now I will say over the years, and I have to believe everybody else has experienced this in a DOT physical. If you walk in and look, even when I was overweight and didn't want to admit it back then, I didn't look overweight. I've weightlifted long enough that you don't obviously look overweight, even though I was about 40 pounds overweight at my worst. But when you walk in and you look fairly normal, and today, let's be honest, when you walk through a truck stop today, do the people look different than they did 30 years ago?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I can remember so many damn DOT physicals where if you walk in and you look healthy, they pencil whip the damn thing. It's over in 10 minutes and they barely check anything. I mean, we've all been through those kind of DOT physicals. And then all of a sudden you get the doctor that wants to check everything and, he's micromanaging the whole thing. There's just no consistency. And now we kind of understand why. The FMCSA is a disaster. So 7 years ago, they decided it was obsolete. Well, how obsolete? They don't tell us. Was it 10 years out of date 7 years ago? Or how obsolete was it? But then we just ignore it for 7 years and do nothing. We take the handbook away because we say it's obsolete and we leave them on their own. You're just on your own. Do whatever the hell you want is basically what's been going on for 7 years.
Right, and like you said, I think most of them just reverted back to when they first read it. Oh my God, this with the next size.
Yeah.
That's why in the last years the sleep apnea jumped up so many. I mean, how many guys called in? They had to go to the. I mean, it's the time consuming, the money. I mean, it's just insane. I just hope they get it fixed because. We'll be hurting.
Hey, have you seen the latest medical solution for sleep apnea?
That one where they put like insert something in you, like
exactly, and that's all I need to know to say not no, but hell no. Yeah, not no, but hell no. You don't have to tell me anything else about this device. You're inserting it into my body. Oh no, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Almost everything foreign they try to insert into our bodies have horrible track records. Go back and look. How many artificial hips have been pulled off of the market after they've been implanted into tens of thousands of people, and years later we find out they've destroyed their health because it's shedding mercury or lead or some crazy thing, or the body has grown through the implant or something weird. We have all the filter type things they put in people's veins to try to break up blood clots. Those have caused horrendous problems and been pulled off the market. We have the whole mesh implant that women went through that destroyed health, had to be pulled off the market. Multiple artificial joints have been pulled off the market. People have to go back. Getting a new hip is a pretty major surgery, and then that hip fails, they got to go do it again. They're putting things in our body has a horrible track record, and to do it for something that I consider pretty minor and actually fixable, sleep apnea, I think is insane.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like you said, the thing with that too is that, but none of this stuff gets out. I mean that mesh thing you used to have DV, you had this surgical mesh, all this stuff.
Yeah. But
all of this stuff it's there, but it's not public so that everyone can say, hey, man, I don't want to do that, or...
No, it's not. And if you're not paying attention, and I've been paying attention for a long time because this is what we do. If you're not paying attention, you wouldn't realize the list I went through, and I could keep going. There is a huge
Oh, I
list
know,
of
yeah.
stuff they used to implant into people's bodies and they had to stop. But we don't ever stop the whole concept.
No, it's just because it's almost like with dope sick. It's just the money. Big
Yep.
pharma, and these places that are making manufacture these things, they that's what they're in business for.
Yeah.
To make money off of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let someone else get in there, Kev. Take care.
Got it. All right. Thanks for the call. Hey, I just looked up. There's actually nobody else no more calls to take right now. So I'm looking at the clock. I got to decide what we're going to do here today. I could easily fill up the next 9 minutes with stuff I had from earlier. And then I think what we'll do a quick restart. If you want to call in, you can call right now. When I restart, we won't restart the phones. We'll just restart the show. That just helps us keep our recordings separately. Lauren will be joining me. And I really don't have anything all that important that I have to get out today. A couple things I might talk about. But once Lauren joins us, Lauren has been working on the whole final macronutrient carbohydrate for a while. And I know a lot of people want to hear it, so we'll be talking about carbohydrates in general here at the start of the next show. But also, this is your chance to get your questions answered by both Lauren and myself. And Lauren does all of our discovery calls and one-on-ones. So she's got a really good perspective on a lot of this stuff. So pick up the phone and join us. We're going to continue on with After Hours with Kevin and Lauren here in just a little bit. So a couple things I want to get back to. I want to go back to one other thing that was in that the article from the biohacks from the Navy SEAL officer. There's one in here that was interesting, and I actually learned something I thought was pretty interesting when I tried this. Where is that one? Here it is. They call it a physiological sigh. The physiological sigh is a proven method to push back the stress response in real time. Now, here's the interesting thing. I've said many times before, we had no way of measuring stress. And now we do in real time. The Garmin watch. We get an instant stress reading. It's probably the single most important reading I have been using for the last year. Now we have HRV, we have body battery, we have other parts of this, but that you've heard me talk about it 1,000 times in the last year. When I do this, my instant stress does this. When I do this, I've learned so much from this. I just got another lesson today. So here is the physiological sigh. It's simple, really is. And it's a breathing thing. So you take 2 short inhales through your nose. So it should kind of, I don't know if you'll hear this or not. I'll try to get the mic a little closer to my nose. Should sound a little like 2 quick, short inhales through your nose. Then 1 long exhale out your mouth. And you do that 1 to 3 times. And it says, try it to feel the difference. When you inhale, the skeletal muscle inside your body moves down, your lungs expand, and the diaphragm moves down. Your heart gets a bit bigger because it has more space. And because of the larger space, the blood in there is now moving slower than it was before you inhaled. Neurons in your heart pay attention to the rate of blood flow, so they signal to the brain that the blood is moving more slowly to the heart. The brain sends a signal back to speed the heart up. So if your inhales are longer than your exhales, you're speeding up your heart. To slow down your heart rate, you need to do longer exhales. When you exhale, the exact opposite happens. The diaphragm moves up, which makes the heart smaller. Blood moves more quickly through the smaller space. The heart neurons register that the blood is moving faster, and they send a signal up to the brain to slow the heart down. Two really interesting things I found about this. One, it's the opposite of what we're doing in the Wim Hof breathing. So, and I went back and looked at my records. This isn't something I was paying attention to, but when I first start the Wim Hof breathing, my heart rate goes up. Ultimately, by the time I'm done with my Wim Hof, though, my stress level comes down. So because the Wim Hof is more than just inhale, exhale, we are in Wim Hof, we're taking a big inhale, but not a big exhale. We're doing the opposite of this. So the breathing part of Wim Hof will, and I just thought of this. Remember I told you the Wim Hof breathing actually increases our stress level in the beginning. The heat increases our stress level. The cold increases our stress level. The resistance increases our stress level. But it's what we call hormetic or eustress. It builds our stress muscle. But then the next step of the breathing in Wim Hof is the breath hold. And that's when my stress level starts to drop. And I know all of this because I watch it on my watch all the time. So when I heard this, I thought, well, maybe this is a great way to just lower stress really quick without going through the whole Wim Hof thing. So I tried it. Guess what happened? My stress went up. And I thought, wait a minute, this makes sense. I understand it. Why is my stress going up? So I kept doing it. And I stopped for a while, and then I went back, and then I stopped for a while, and I kept trying this. And then after a while, when I do this, now I do relax. So it's almost like you have to learn this. In the beginning, it felt so unnatural. I think it was causing me stress. Well, we need to let people know that. I mean, he makes it sound like, well, do this, you'll immediately lower your stress. No, it didn't. I actually felt more stressed. And it's true, my stress levels were higher. But it's only because it was just unnatural and uncomfortable. I had to get used to it. So if you want to try these things, the watch is fantastic for really seeing what's going on. You used to have to go to a lab and get all wired up to try to figure this kind of stuff out. Now we can do it all day long. I have a biohacking lab on my wrist now. So pretty interesting. This does work, but it requires a little bit of practice, and you've got to get comfortable with it. But once you do, this is a really, really quick way to just lower that stress response. What else did I have in here? A little bit on sleep. I actually registered my highest sleep score in a year this week, just the other day. And I've been pretty consistent with better sleep scores the last couple of days. Now, they're still not really good. They're not. But I feel fantastic. My body battery is getting higher every day. All of my numbers are looking better. And I got thinking, the sleep score goes from 0 to 100. A big, big part of the score is just how long you sleep. The problem I find, the other night when I had my highest sleep score, still wasn't great, but it was my highest in a year, it was because I slept 7.5 hours. The other, I got a little more deep sleep than average. I got a little more REM sleep than average, and my awake time and restlessness was a little lower than average. But the big change in my score was just the time that I slept. My average for the last year is like under 5 hours. It's like 4 hours and 50 minutes, I think, for the last year. That's been my sleep average. So when I get 7.5 hours, that's a big change. The problem is, after I get 7.5 hours one night, I'll probably get 3 the next. It's like my body says, look, you got more sleep than you needed last night. I wonder if we have that the sleep score just really isn't a one-size-fits-all, because, when I was in my early 20s, I did sleep 8.5 hours, sometimes 9 hours. And that wasn't uncommon. But we know as we get older, we tend to sleep less. So maybe we need to revamp the whole sleep score, and maybe it needs to be age specific, and maybe we need to get another couple of factors in there. I have a feeling. Look, here's the thing. If a sleep score, if the scale is 0 to 100, then somebody better be able to achieve 100. Or why would we have a scale that you can't achieve? I've never heard of anybody getting 100. If you have, I'd love to hear from you. I'm sure somebody does. I hope so. I doubt that I would ever see 100. I doubt that I could ever get my sleep score consistently over 90, no matter how good it would be. No matter how many improvements I make to it, I doubt that I'll ever get over 90, just because of the whole time issue. The better I sleep, the more I improve those other parts of my sleep. How much deep sleep am I getting? How much REM sleep am I getting? Is it a good cycle throughout the night? So you move from light sleep to deep sleep to REM sleep to light sleep to deep sleep. That's how it should happen. Even if I perfect all of those things and I end up getting less sleep because my sleep quality is better. So sometimes I'm actually improving things and my sleep score is going down. So I think as we learn more and as we can measure more, I think we're going to have to start revamping the sleep score thing. So that's something I'm going to be working on. All right, I am going to restart the show right now. So we'll have just a minute or two here. We are not restarting the phone line, so they're open. And if you want to dial right now, we've got Lauren joining us when we come back, so you can ask questions of both of us. If you're interested in the discovery call or one-on-one process, that's all Lauren. So this is a great opportunity for you if you're just not sure what it is or if you need it. Now is the time to call, talk to both of us. Lauren can give you, what the whole program's all about. It's really, I think it's our best program when it comes to health. Lauren does an excellent job with it. It's one-on-one. It's very focused. So we help a lot of people that we never, ever talk to. People don't call. We may never interact with most of the people that we help. And we help them with general information. Try this works for everybody. Try this works for almost everybody. But then there's always those things, almost always, even my issue. If I didn't know all this stuff and I didn't do all the reading and the research, I would be looking for somebody to help me with this afternoon slump because it came out of the blue and I couldn't figure it out. Luckily, I just happened to find this biohacking article, and it made sense to me. So now would be a great time to call if you just want to kind of explore the discovery call process and the one-on-ones. What is it? Do I need it? Would it help me? How does it work? And you can get comfortable with it before you have to go commit to it. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this. We're going to start another call our show here in just a minute. So line up the calls right now, 855-950-3835. We will be right back. This takes me about a minute. Don't go anywhere. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.